The Nintendo Switch 2 is right around the corner, and you know what that means. We are about to be blessed with a handful of new games from some of our favorite franchises: Super Mario, Mario Kart, Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon, and so on. But what about the other franchises? The franchises that were sent off to the land of misfit games. The ones we haven't heard from in a generation, or maybe longer, or maybe we've only seen ports of older games onto the Nintendo Switch. Well, I think it's about time we see them make a return. So buckle up as I take you through my personal list of classic Nintendo releases we need to see make a return on the Nintendo Switch 2 right away. Now, starting off, number 1, Star Fox. This is an obvious one, right? Star Fox has been a staple on Nintendo platforms since the days of the Super Nintendo, and while many of us fell in love with the franchise thanks to its N64 entry, it's seen modest to little support since then. We've had Star Fox Assault on the GameCube, which was fine, I enjoyed it. Weirdly enough, I enjoyed that Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube a ton more, but since then, we've really only seen ports of 64 onto various handheld consoles like the DS or 3DS, and then there's Star Fox Zero, which admittedly is a game I never played, so I can't speak exactly to why people did not like it. Maybe you can. Let me know why this game was just so bad, but from what I could tell, people hate it. But all that aside, now is the time for a new Star Fox game. Now, what does this game look like? I don't know. And that's probably something Nintendo's been thinking about as well, since a lot of the different directions they've tried to take the franchise in since its apex on the N64 have been received with moderate to lukewarm to, well, again, darn near terrible reception. Personally, I just want a classic Star Fox game. Make it big, make it challenging, add some good multiplayer and replayability, and you got me. But what about you? What would you want to see out of this franchise when it makes its return? The next one is Advance Wars. Now, we've recently gotten the remakes of Advance Wars 1 and 2 on the Switch, which I enjoyed, but some people didn't, and from what I could tell, it mainly seems thanks to the updated art direction. This is a franchise we've seen so much of in the past, and with the rise in appreciation in recent times for true tactical RPGs, Fire Emblem, Triangle Strategy, Diofield Chronicles, Tactics Ogre Reborn, Marvel Midnight Suns, and so many more, it almost feels like a crime, an advanced war crime, that we haven't had a new release in a while. Now, I'm aware of some of its more recent DS releases and how they were received relatively average to poor, but I think this franchise has a lot of potential. I love to see it modernize in a way perhaps a bit more isometric 3D in terms of appearance, similar to its GameCube spin-offs Battalion Wars, without the RTS focus, and just give players an opportunity to really dig into some great tactical warfare. But that's me. I want to see it come back. But do you do? And if it does, what do you want to see it come back as? The next one is Diddy Kong Racing. Now, full stop, I realize how highly unlikely this is. The Kong family has been a staple in Mario Kart for years now, and given the success of the aforementioned Italian Plumbers Kart Racing series and other competitors gaining some ground, here's looking at you, Sonic Team Racing, I don't think it would be wise for Nintendo to release 2 first-party kart racers. Now, that being said, maybe there's a learning from Diddy Kong Racing that Mario Kart can take on, and that is the single-player campaign. The open world levels in Diddy Kong Racing, the selection process similar to Banjo and Kazooie or even Crash Bandicoot, the boss races, the exploration and hidden unlocks you could discover in that open world. I would love to see something like this adapted into a modern day Mario Kart. Basically a story mode. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the traditional tournament modes in Mario Kart, but I really think Nintendo could add some extra pizzazz to its latest release by adding some type of adventure mode. But let me know your thoughts. Did you play Diddy Kong Racing? Do you miss it as much as I do? Did you also love that single player mode? I remember having such a hard time with the final boss, and then I think after you beat the entire game, you had to do it all reverse tracks as well. It was so hard, but it was a lot of fun. Now, the next one is Snowboard Kids. Now, this is a franchise many of you might not remember because, well, you're not as old as me. But if you do remember it, you might say, hey, wait, Mark, this wasn't exclusively a Nintendo game. Well, yes and no. Snowboard Kids first dropped on the N64 in '98 exclusive, and the game had so much charm. It was a fun mix of Mario Kart racing, but also extreme sports. I love the classic characters, and for some reason this game is just ingrained in my head. And back to my earlier comment, the first one did see a PlayStation 1 port in '99, but all subsequent sequels have been exclusive to Nintendo. Snowboard Kids 2 released on the N64 in '99, and a DS exclusive called SBK Snowboard Kids released in 2005, which, full stop, I did not play, nor did I even know it existed. But just looking at it, I'm not crazy about the change in art direction. I think it would be great if Nintendo worked to revive the franchise, add some more Tony Hawk-like extreme sports features to the games, and just give gamers another first-party sports racer. It won't be as big as Mario Kart, but I do think it would be nice to have some extra variety in that gaming market. There's really no snowboard games on the market anymore, at least not like it used to be. But what do you think? Do you think it'd be great for Nintendo to bring this series back? Do you miss Snowboard Kids? Do you even remember Snowboard Kids? I remember Snowboard Kids. I remember it very fondly. Now, number 5 is the fantastic Donkey Konga. I loved this game when it first released on the GameCube back in the day. I played the heck out of it. And this was a really significant, innovative release at the time, as there really weren't a ton of rhythm or music-based games on console. No Guitar Hero or anything like that. Now, DDR is probably out in the arcades, but I digress. Now, Nintendo doesn't have to give us another barrel or two of Konga controllers, but I could easily see them coming up with some type of solution with the Joy-Cons to bring the series back in some way or another. But really, I would just love it if Nintendo just did some type of new first-party music or rhythm game again, whether it's Donkey Konga or a revival of Elite Beat Agents or Rhythm Heaven, anything. I think there's a lot of opportunity to create a fun single-player and multiplayer experience with the original Switch hardware. But I can't see why it couldn't be done with the Switch 2 hardware as well. But do you remember Donkey Konga as fondly as I do? What about any of those other rhythm games I mentioned? Let me know which one you'd like to see return. Now, the next one is F-Zero, and man, I think this one is a guarantee. And while I know we can't have too many racers on the hardware, this one is radically different than Mario Kart. We haven't seen a full-on 3D F-Zero since the GameCube with F-Zero GX, and it just blows my mind that we haven't got another one quite yet. And I say it's a guarantee because I really think Nintendo was testing the waters with its F-Zero 99 release, a way to raise the overall F-Zero brand into the general consciousness of new and younger gamers, while also letting us old-school Nintendo heads know that they haven't forgotten about us. Now, F-Zero today feels like it could be really special. GX was such a fast-paced, challenging game, and there's a part of me that thinks a new F-Zero could easily take off in the esports scene too. The closest thing we've had to such a game, at least on Nintendo hardware, was Fast RMX back in 2017, and it was great. But we need Captain Falcon and we need the rest of the gang. We need a new F-Zero and we need it now. Now, this next one is Picross 3D, and I know what you're gonna say. Mark, we had a ton of Picross games on the Switch. Trust me, I know. In fact, my team at DevR Games released one of them on the Switch, Depiction. So trust me, I know it's there. But there is something magical about Picross 3D, and I think of how Laboratories partnered up with Jupiter, the company that only releases Picross games on Nintendo hardware, to bring some type of new Nintendo-focused Picross 3D to the Switch 2. It could be a great title to fit into that casual gaming market that Nintendo handhelds are known for. I'm talking about all of the cast and crew from Nintendo. I want to chisel out a 3D Kirby in 4K now. But did you play any of these games? Are you even familiar with Nonogram puzzles or Picross games? You should check them out now if you aren't, and if you are, like I said, there are a lot of good games on the Switch, but I want to see Picross 3D make a return. I thought it was just such a fun take on the franchise as a whole. Now, my 8th and final pick is the one that feels most criminal. The Garlic Basque, the Gluttonous Gorge, the Purple People Eater himself, Wario. More specifically, Wario Land or Wario World. We haven't got a new single-player platform featuring the Italian anti-hero since the Wii, and this just blows my mind. The Wario Land games on the GameCube and Game Boy Advance were fantastic, and they were some of the most innovative platformers at the time for Nintendo. And while his forays into the 3D realm were relatively less innovative with the likes of Wario World, I still enjoyed it. And I think there's a large amount of people out there who would love to see Wario and even Waluigi team up for a true single-player adventure. Heck, I'd even be down to see Wario and Waluigi in an RPG akin to the Mario and Luigi games. It just seems like there'd be a lot of opportunity for good humor with those characters in that type of game. Now, Wario is my spirit animal when it comes to Nintendo characters. He loves gold, he's a bit crash, and something about him just screams he may be involved with organized crime. And I'm all for it. But did you play any of these Wario Land games? Do you remember them as fondly as I do? If you haven't, thankfully Nintendo's been releasing them on the Nintendo Switch Online service, at least a few of them. So jump in now to get a taste of the pure, golden, delicious garlic adventure that is the Wario Land games. And let me know what you would love to see from a new Wario single-player game overall as well. But these are my top 8 titles that I like to see return. There are a ton more I didn't mention, one specifically being Kid Icarus Uprising. I just want to port to that game since I never played it and I've heard fantastic things. But what games or franchises do you want to see return? Maybe Wave Race, maybe 1080 Snowboarding. Let me know your thoughts below, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, happy gaming.